Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Christoph Fournier, John Travolta, JMails24, my anonymous donor, Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neeland, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Gilded and G+, so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
I heard Windows Vista was still the best.
Now I'm thinking not.
Anybody hear about those Google phones? Are they any good?
An Android. It's just like any other Android.
So it's the same thing as like the iPhone and the Android. In other words, just Google's brand.
Yeah, it's just like buying an XTC or a Sony or whatever else that's branded, but it's just a... They were the original Android phone, weren't they?
Google?
Yeah, I had one. So the Samsung S1 was branded Google.
Really? I didn't know that. Remember when the BlackBerry was the shit?
Oh, I remember that. I used to work for a big phone carrier back in the day when they first launched. That was fun.
So like when did the first smartphone come out? Like the one like similar to what we have now, where you could go on the internet and all of that? What year was that?
It's probably the G1. I'm gonna say it was like 2005.
Yeah, maybe a bit before that. I mean, you could do limited functionality of the same thing back with WAP, and people had internet on their phone when I was going into college. So in the late 90s, you had people doing stuff like this. Maybe not in the late 90s, early 2000s, people could do internet on their phone. I just remember I had a very geeky set of friends at the time, and they were all into this. So they were showing me, what they could do. I remember sitting in a bar at about age 20, 21, maybe a bit younger, with this guy John Wheel showing me his phone, showing me, look, I can get internet. But to do it, it was alphanumeric. So in other words, to type something in to the internet search engine on this phone, you had to use like you would old texting. You use the numbers.
Uh-huh.
So there's no keyboard. You just did it like you were doing alphanumeric texting via a SMS service with numbers.
Wow. I remember in 99, this guy, I was on a mission trip and he was like so proud. He said, "Hey, did you get my email? Did you get my email?" I didn't even know what the hell an email was. I'm like, "No, what's an email?"
How did he send you one if you didn't? Yeah, okay. This is full of
I have
holes.
no idea. I mean, I had a computer home that my wife used, but I didn't touch it back then.
Probably had an AOL address and didn't even know it.
I still do.
Oh wow, that's funny.
That's the name of my channel. That's my original email address. Nathan Oakley 1980 was the original screen name, because that was your email address was your screen name on AOL Instant Messenger. So,
Oh my gosh, that's true.
so that's what it is. Nathan Oakley 1980 was my original name. And the reason I kept it was just on principle. So I remember a guy called Sam. And my folks owned a computer shop, and at a time there was a period where we all hated computers. Everyone in the family hated it. The business got sold. Couldn't give it to any of their kids. My parents couldn't give it away to them. None of us wanted it. Anyway, so we all fell out of love very much so with computers, and I went into a hi-fi industry. Anyway, a guy in the shop that I worked in was like into computers. Now, I didn't have any interest in them at the time, but I wasn't like negative towards them. But I was like, yeah, I've got a pretty good idea about what computers do, bearing in mind I was building them as a child. Not that I said that, but you know what I mean. I had a good idea. And he started explaining, what computers did, and I was like, yeah, I'm well aware. I've got one. He's like, well, what's your spec and what is it? I was like, I don't know. It's in the cupboard. Because I'd got a fully spec'd, really, really good computer because they were 10 a penny in the shop. So, when it came to them selling the shop, they're like, do you want this computer? And I was like, not really. They're like, well, you should really have it. Okay, I'll have it then. And I put it in a cupboard, like a top-of-the-range computer. So this guy, Sam, was absolutely horrified. So he came round, he's like, I'll set it up for you. And at the time, I was like more into movies, so I got a projector set up, and I have had for years. And he came in and just plugged it into the projector, and off you went. There was massive AOL on my projection screen, and he was blown away. He was like, wow, this is an amazing computer. I was like, I don't care. But the first thing he showed me, I'll get to my point, was him. He said, this is instant messenger. You can just chat to girls. And at the time, I was single. I was like, I'm definitely interested in that. He was like, watch this. So he goes and opens up some random profile after looking through the messenger boards and finding somebody random. And first question off his lips, what are you wearing? I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, well, I'm signed in under this name, and it's not really me. It doesn't say Sam. It's just some random name. What do you want your random name to be? I'm like, I want it to be my name. He's like, yeah, but then you can't get away with asking girls what they're wearing. I was like, I don't want to get away with asking girls what they're wearing. Yes, I want to meet girls, but I don't want to be what is effectively now turned into your nameless, faceless potato, right? That's what he was suggesting I did. And I was like, no, on principle, I want there to be consequences. In other words, I want it to keep me honest. If I've put my name next to it, yeah, and indeed the year of birth, 1980 is my year of birth, that's me. That's a very, very much an identifier for me specifically. Therefore, I won't be in that mindset that, I can get away with asking this, that, and the other, or being nasty or doing troll things. I was like, no, if it's me by name, and it's very identifiable as me by name and year of birth, then that's me, isn't it? And I won't be tempted to just do the stuff that you're suggesting I can do. Now, obviously, this guy was all into the anonymity of the internet because he could get away with stuff that he couldn't do. And it's like, well, okay, maybe try and work on your own self so you can do these things in a way that you experience in real life, rather than shoving them down into the dark corners of the internet as it was when it first came out with AOL. And free serve and various other things. But anyway, and I've stuck to that mentality ever since. Don't do things online that you wouldn't necessarily do in real life. In other words, I feel my persona, and it is a persona, I'm online, I'm on shows, is very, very, very close to me. Yes, it's still a persona. But if you met me in person, you wouldn't suddenly be shocked that I'm not like a bit like meeting Alex Jones in reality. You'd go, oh, you're nothing like your persona then. I mean, it might be, but just as an example. Well,
sad thing is,
go on.
Are you done?
Yeah. Just waffling, Neil.
The sad thing is, I could have finished that story for you. Good story though, but I could have told that whole story for you.
It's just it's relevant. The only reason I tell the story is because it's relevant to what we experience here now. What is it? A lot of years later. People have got a choice. They can either be themselves, which generally tends to suggest that you're confident in your own skin, or
be rumpus,
or you can be a faceless, nameless potato, and you can exercise some of those dark demons that you don't get the opportunity to exercise in real life. Now, I do have some demons, but I exercise them in real life as well. In the same way that some of those demons come out online in my internet persona, which is also Nathan Oakley.
What's up, John?
Not much. Having a little trouble this morning.
So are the Yankees.
Windows updates, yeah?
Jeez.
Oh no, I've got some real trouble, not Yankee trouble.
Oh, not your BIOS.
My
Car didn't get stolen
the,
again, did it?
no, the third cylinder on the spark plug on the third cylinder blew out,
What happened
and
to you?
I'm in.
Did you ever get a resolve for your Beamer? Was it a Beamer or was it a Merc? I think it was a Beamer, right?
Yeah, they found it. They found it. The kid got arrested, and he's like 17 years old and part of a gang. You know.
Did you get the car back?
Yeah, it wasn't even that messed up. I mean,
You
Just
just
it's so
joyrided
old.
it and just dumped it, so it wasn't even. It didn't scratch it, didn't damage it, didn't blow the engine up, didn't knacker the gearbox.
No, yeah, I got it back like a week later. They didn't make it far because I hadn't put gas in it, and I drove it till the light come on. I was going to go get gas in it that morning, you know. So
Yeah,
they
they-
didn't drive it straight to a gas station
I
because they
see.
were, you know.
Tight little sods didn't fill it up, eh?
Yeah, so they only made it like 4 blocks away, and then they fucking parked it.
So between the light coming on in your Beamer and it running out of petrol's 4 blocks. Wow. I suppose you did say you'd had it idling and stuff on the driveway though, right?
Well, no, I'd been working on it, and I left the keys underneath in the floorboard because I just finished doing a tune-up on it.
Little sods. So it's okay now. You've got that car back and it's all insured and you can drive it, right?
Yeah, I'm driving it right now, but I'm in West Virginia, and I had the third cylinder blowout, so I need to find somebody with a helicoil that's close to me and a tap that they can put it back in with.
Bummer.
When I told my wife what the problem was, she was like, "Why don't you just speak English?"
So what does that mean? Does that mean your car's misfiring?
Yeah, I've lost all compression on the third cylinder.
Right, you need someone with a tool that can rethread it. Not the cylinder.
Yeah, where the spark plug screws in at the top
right.
of the motor. Yeah, I just need somebody that's able to rethread that. But when they rethread it, it makes it bigger. So you got to put a helicoil in, which is like a reducer for that hole that you just tapped out.
Gotcha.
And then you can put the spark plug back in. But try getting anybody in the States to touch a BMW. Just try it.
Why? What's wrong with BMWs? I've seen that on Scotty and various other people. That no, you've got to take it to the BMW specialist. You're like, what?
Yeah, they don't want to be responsible. A
Why?
lot of mechanics in the States.
It's a car. There's no difference.
Nathan, they make a big deal about it. There's the mechanic shops that say, we work on foreign cars, and there's some that just work on American cars. They won't touch a Mercedes or a BMW.
Okay, right, certainly not like that here. In any local garage, not some posh outfit, just local garage. You take your car in, they have a look at it, and they fix it if they can. And there are occasions when they'll go through something and go, I haven't got the software. I unfortunately haven't got the BMW specific software to read the code on this particular fault. What I have done is changed your oil, fixed this problem, made your door lock again, made your window work. I'm just listing off a whole load of electrical faults because it's a BMW. But anyway, they'll fix all of those things, and then the specific thing that they can't either get a read for the code, they'll tell you, and they'll say, yeah, you'll have to take that to the BMW specialist. But that's very rare.
Right. But see, the thing is, this is a very general motor issue. It happens to all vehicles, right?
Right.
And the tool would be the same no matter what.
Right.
It's just irritating as a mother effer.
I can get it. I understand it if it's something exotic. So, for example, the local garage, I was talking to them about what car to buy. And one of the things on the list was the same car I've got, but with a V8 engine. And they went, we wouldn't work on it. And I went, why? They went, well, because of the type of configuration of the car, nothing to do with it being a Lexus, but everything to do with them putting too big an engine in too small a space. And it becomes hella expensive. But that's because it's hella time consuming. And we don't have the time and the space to wait on various bits, take engines out, to do basic maintenance. So we would prefer you took that somewhere else. I was like, well, what about the V6? Oh, yeah, no worries. In fact, that's super cheap to work on because there's loads of space around it. And it was, getting the new clutch fitted was into the hundreds rather than the thousands because they could do it in next to no time. You just split it apart, change it, get it back in. It was no time at all. But does it matter that it's a Merc or a Lexus or a Beamer? Every car's like that. If you take a Ford, there's a reasonable chance that they'll go, we can't solve that issue. You'll have to take it to Ford. Doesn't matter that it's domestic or foreign. They're all like it. What a crock of crap in the States, man. Getting service. I found that as well.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, something about the union for anybody in any service work, that they can pick and choose their jobs and they can be fussy and they can be dicks about it. And they're not grateful for your custom in many instances, turning you away. Just like, what? That just seems crazy. But you've got really, really good unions for people in the service industry of any description, right?
No, mechanics aren't union.
No, they're not.
They're all.
No way. Okay.
It really comes down to lawsuits, and they've got it in their heads from the lawsuits that they've where people have tried to fix BMWs and messed them up even more. And then the person turns around and sues them for messing it up even more. That they don't want to take on that responsibility.
But again, how is it any different for a Beamer than it is for a Merc or a Lexus or a Toyota?
Well, it's not. It's not. And that's the point that I'm frustrated with, because it would be the same no matter the car.
Right.
It is a general maintenance issue. Well, not a general maintenance. It takes a specialty tool, but it's just frustrating.
Right. It's not just changing the spark plug, but like you say, it's a pretty common thing to do. I mean, there's plenty of videos of people with their spark plugs popping out, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's common enough that there are people that specialize just in that, putting in helicoils.
My God. Yeah, it's States for you, though.
Whenever I take my car to
Say again? Two people spoke at once.
I'll just say, whenever I take my car to a mom and pop shop, they usually can't do anything, so I always have to take it to the dealer anyways.
I'm surprised. I've had it the other way around. I took a brand new, admittedly leased car, but with 0 miles on the clock. Took it back to the dealer because it had an issue with something squeaking. They couldn't resolve it. Not a mechanical issue, admittedly. Took it to Mom and Pop's garage, i.e. my local garage. I went, can you fix this squeak? And they went, yeah, we'll have a look at it. And they did it. It was a brand new, expensive, complicated car. They didn't give a crap. Oh, what's the problem? Squeaking? Where's the squeak coming from? Here. Yeah, we'll have a look. It's just a car.
Yeah, I hear at Valvoline they can't do the proper torque pressure when they change your oil, so
Whatever.
Well, to move the topic slightly in another direction, Arwen was talking about they're supposedly sending a new rocket into the sky vacuum of Narnia. Has anybody else heard about that?
I don't keep up with it anymore. I've lost all interest. It's like, once you figure out it's completely bogus, it just enrages me. I'm watching and it genuinely angers me. Hey, Brian. But no, if you had anybody else know about this latest fake space launch?
I think it's called the Artemis.
Artemis.
Hey, Brian.
Sorry, John, I stepped on you.
Lies.
Yeah, I was just saying, I think it's called the Artemis rocket. I can't say that for sure, but yeah, it's Arwen can explain in more detail. He was saying that it's too big to get off the ground. And if you were trying to send it to the place they're claiming they're sending it to within their model, that might be true. But if all you got to do is get it to go in a parabolic arc to the horizon, I think they might can do it.
Of course they can. Under the apprehension that what you've got inside that tube, or whatever shape it is full of stuff. Well, there's no... When I went to the Space Museum 5-6 years ago, something like that, with Martin, one of the things that was really obvious was that the rockets that they had in there, when you got close enough to them and looked through them, there was nothing in them. They were held together with ratchet straps on the inside. There was nothing, literally nothing to them. And these are the ones that you can get close up to, not the ones that are at a massive distance being shot off. So we have no idea what's in those rockets. We know damn well that they've faked it and pretended they've got men in them. So, yeah.
Well, sorry, Nathan. Sorry.
I'm done.
I was going to say, if they use enough coal, they get it up in the air.
Coal?
Yeah. Well, you know, that's what they're going to be using soon, because they're going to start eventually coming up with some kind of an electric rocket, right? Electric rocket. That's, I just know that's where they're going. The big Tesla electric rocket. And what do they use to make all the electric batteries and all this kind of stuff? They use coal. It's all a big fraud.
But
It's
electric
all
what?
nonsense.
What would they do it with? A fan?
Who knows? They don't have to do it. They just have to give the impression that they're doing it.
Exactly.
Right.
What did you
It's all
say,
on
like-
video anyway.
I hesitate.
Are you
to
saying
before I finish
Elon-
this. Go on, John.
I was going to say, what are you saying? Elon Musk would shoot lightning out of his ass and shoot up into space? Is that?
It doesn't matter. He could, as long as he's telling you it's only real because it looks so fake.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. I think it was Taboo Conspiracy. I tell you, Ben from Taboo Conspiracy, he has been probably the best out of everyone over all the years at finding these things. You know, making videos about stuff. He sticks to just making videos, totally making videos. He's not interested in trolls. He's not interested in having debates. He just makes videos. But I think it was him that pointed out that the whole Bermuda Triangle thing and all this mysterious thing that happens around the Bermuda Triangle, supposedly, that all started at the same time as they were shooting rockets out over that direction. What a coincidence. There wasn't a word about the Bermuda Triangle until NASA started shooting rockets out over that piece of water that were supposed to be going out into space.
The whole notion of being lost in the Bermuda Triangle is, you are suggesting, propped up by the notion that they don't really want people going out and finding crashed rockets, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, they close down the whole, when they do these rocket launches, they close down, like the military closed down a huge portion of the sea, as far as I know, the US military. But I think it was Ben Taboo Conspiracy that went and looked at this, and the whole Bermuda Triangle thing, there wasn't one word about that until around the same year, or within a year or so, of them shooting rockets out over it that were supposed to be going into outer space. You know,
Really?
yeah, there was like, it was one of the it's like, because what is the Bermuda Triangle? You know, what is it? You know, it's supposed to be this mysterious place, but if you go back in history, there wasn't a word about it. People were sailing there all the time. No one was going missing. No, sure, there's loads of stories of people that were supposedly that things supposedly happened. But if you try and actually find anything about any actual evidence about it, about that a stretch of water, that area there out off of Miami or whatever, that is where the stories that are prior to the rockets, you won't be able to find any actual evidence that anything was supposedly happening there prior to NASA shooting rockets out over that piece of water. So
We know they shoot the rockets, Brian. So
Yeah.
you're saying that these rockets all go into that space in the ocean?
Where
Well,
else
I
are they
don't
going to
know,
go?
but I
Well,
know-
just think about it logically. they're saying that they go out into an area that doesn't exist, Neil. Outer space is fake. We know that. So
Yeah, that I know.
right, but you can physically go and watch something physically lift off the ground and disappear towards the horizon. So where else is it going to go?
Have you ever heard in any NASA launch where they said the rocket is now leaving the non-inertial turning reference frame and it is appearing to deviate towards the horizon?
Yes, there are a couple of things that have had reference to Coriolis deflection and slingshot effects,
The kid with his
gravitational
father,
forces,
wasn't
and
that?
various other things like that. So yes, I'm sure I could find one if I tried hard enough. I don't have one
Wasn't
to
there
hand.
a kid with his father saying, "Look, Daddy, it's curving"?
It's going down.
Right,
Yeah,
something
that's
like
not
that.
that's not what he's asking. He's saying, is there a NASA reporter or a NASA bod saying the reason we get the velocity is because it's leaving the non-inertial turning reference frame of Earth and slingshotting off into space? But yes, there are, I believe, from memory, sources that would say something akin to that. Yes, but I just don't have any to hand.
Well, it's
Yeah,
just
it's all
interesting
orbiting.
because they say that powered flight doesn't experience that. Isn't that what the anti-flat earthers say?
Anti-flat earthers say
Yeah.
that, yeah, going against their heliocentric rhetoric, and yes, we could find references to point that out to them.
Yeah, I
Well-
was thinking about that the other day.
Technically, Johnny Depp is after debunking NASA.
What?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Because he's floating in the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
Hey, but listen, that sounds a little conspiratorial to me.
Well,
Good
I can
morning.
guarantee you.
What does?
If the rockets are all landing in a certain part of the ocean.
Okay,
Come
what's
on.
Well, I
the
didn't say
what's
that.
the
I
alternative,
didn't say
Neil?
that.
What's the alternative? Do they go where they say they're going?
They don't go into what they call space. I know that. They go up.
So, okay.
Right.
You ever heard what goes up must come down?
Oh,
Where
what about
else are they
gas,
going to go?
buddy?
Where else are they going to go?
Come on, Neil.
They all
they're
have a
gonna come
parabolic
back down, bro.
trajectory, so
I
But
think
Neil,
there's a
it's
place
halfway
where
there.
they collect them.
yeah.
I grew up in the 60s, 70s, right? And the Bermuda Triangle was a big deal. I remember getting just these, not magazines, but, where you get your cartoon magazines and your Spider-Man type of things. Well, near that was the Bermuda Triangle and ships. And so it was kind of like, oh, I wonder what's there. And so I would buy these things and read them, and they would be scaring the living daylights out of you. Don't go there.
All
Well,
right.
yeah,
Well, that's
because
the
Brian just said you didn't hear anything about that till after.
no. That's what.
The
No,
rocket
he's
started
confirming
launching.
that. He's saying that there's propaganda being disseminated
okay.
to him personally that he's read about. He's confirming what Brian's saying.
Yeah, you're
I
talking
thought-
about kind of somewhere in the late 50s or 50s or something like that. There was no
okay.
talk. There was no talk about the Bermuda Triangle being a place that was mysterious and would mess with your compasses back in history. It's only started around the time that NASA started forming, if you understand what I mean. They had to
How
preempt it.
convenient.
Well, you go back into the history of that area and you'll find there was no end of pirates that weren't getting lost. Do you know what I mean? And they didn't even have magnetic compasses, maybe. Well, they had something, I'm sure, but do you know what I mean? It's like they weren't getting lost. Pirates, there was no end of pirates around there, and merchants and all the rest of it. There was no end of it. It's famous for it. The amount of ships that were sank for. There was the whole. Remember, the US fought the British on a load of their fleet came out of when it was America's first naval fleet. A load of their fleet was out of that area. Do you know what I mean? It's like there was no talk about don't sail there. You'll get lost and you'll be in another dimension. There was none of that. That wasn't even mentioned. You know what I mean? You don't imagine in the history of the British Navy where they got lost down there years back or whatever, decades ago, whatever it was.
Wasn't that the Philadelphia experiment? The Navy ship went back in time and the old deal.
Well, that is the story, but that's not connected to the Bermuda Triangle.
No, I'm not saying it was, but I remember that movie.
Good movie. Good movie.
Yeah, I like being entertained with stuff that isn't real.
Yeah, me too.
It would
No,
also
then-
be a convenient reason for people that seen something they weren't supposed to see to go missing if you wanted to go that way
Yeah,
with
that's
it.
another good point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, we found this. Oh, another case of them going missing in the Bermuda Triangle. What are you talking about?
Well, that I remember thinking that before. I forgot about it, but yeah, I'm glad you said it, John, because I think even Ben could have said that. I think it was Ben to conspiracy, whoever was first hit on that point, because you could sail into somewhere you're not supposed to be, and suddenly you go missing. It's like the old Bermuda Triangle. You wouldn't know what happened to you there. Yet the U.S. Navy had no about it there ever. Never a problem.
Yeah, so you find some crashed NASA rocket and go, oh my God, something's crashed that's gone into space. So you call up the Navy and they come and sink you.
Well,
Yeah.
the rockets from the private companies that have their okays from NASA anyway, they go up, but they don't go into space, as they all admit. And so they're not real astronauts. The ones that are supposedly real astronauts go on an arc trajectory, and you can't go to a place where you might want to continue seeing this arc trajectory, and then it's all of a sudden they put a voodoo spell in that area of ocean.
Well, I find it funny because I had a preacher that came to a church I used to attend, a very well-known church called Times Square Church. And he came on, and the whole thing was how he was one of the last men that I guess orbited the moon. And boy, you got to hear how many people believe that story, even the preachers.
Well, that's because scientism has come into the pulpit, and the fake space agencies say, why don't you 33-degree Masons go over there, pretend you're a Christian, and validate this, and so they can give glory to God for outer space. And that's exactly what's been happening.
No, came from the church in the first place
Yeah.
and has been part of the religion.
No, that came, not that church. He's not talking about that church. We know it came from the Catholic side of it. Yes, that's not what I'm referencing, though. I'm saying how they get Christians who have a Bible, can clearly see it's not heliocentric, to invite a so-called Christian astronaut to come and talk about how he went somewhere and orbited something. And then what they do is say, God is so big. God created black holes. God created all these things. They give glory. This is exactly what Satan wants.
Hey, listen, you know what the funny thing is? One of the ushers there told Pastor Carter, he says, listen, Pastor Carter, I don't care what that man says. Ain't nobody lands on the moon or going into outer space. So the pastor just laughed. But that was an old timer that said that to him.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, Then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Neil, Righteous Force, 10th Man, Brian's Logic, Refracted Curvature, Adam, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Gilded, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Hello, good
Hello,
afternoon.
everyone.
What's up, Nathan?
Greetings from Bermuda.
Up and away!
I'm going on a parabolic
doing over
arc to
there?
surface level.
Any
Good
evidence?
afternoon, everyone.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure that we're all breathing without a container for the gas to press upon?
Negative.
Impossible.
Nonsense.
Well, if you have an apparent acceleration, then maybe.
Okay, so
Probably not.
If it was no,
Listen.
if we could test it, then I wouldn't be able to tell you about it.
Yeah, listen, we're at a point where people are actually literally telling me that an apparent acceleration is an acceleration.
hold on, apparent
I-
acceleration. Hold on. When you say apparent, that would be appearing but not actually happening. So if you've got an apparent drift in Coriolis effect, it's the illusion of drift when one doesn't actually occur. So if you've got an apparent acceleration, that would mean one that seems to happen but doesn't really happen.
Yeah, it's been likened. It's literally been likened to and been sit alongside, literally, what I was told, pseudo forces. So
That's
literally,
what-
they're
yes,
trying to claim that a
that's
pseudo
correct.
force is.
That's correct.
Yeah, I
a
know-
not actual
yeah.
acceleration would be a pseudo acceleration, meaning a sham acceleration, a fake acceleration, a not really acceleration.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is people are out there trying to make this pseudo acceleration, this apparent acceleration. They're trying to make themselves believe that it's an actual acceleration. And it's created by, and the pseudo force is like an actual force that creates this actual acceleration. That's literally where we're at. So that's what they're trying to make themselves believe at.
I'd like to call on.
Yeah,
That would be a reification fallacy.
Are you talking about gravity? Because, you know, in George Wooster's paraphrased terminology, you've got a not actual force that you can think of as a force, but isn't really a force. That's what you end up with. That's what you're describing, right?
Yeah, because you asked, is there any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container? And I said, well, apparent accelerations, maybe, because that's literally the answer now.
I don't understand how
literally
that
the
has
answer.
anything whatsoever to
I
do
don't
with having
follow.
gas pressure without a container, though, Brian. Maybe you can link these two for me on behalf of the anti-flat earthers that have put this to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're putting it to more than me. The claim always was that we have gas pressure due to a force of gravity. Now, after 7 years, they're starting to accept that gravity is not a force, but now they're trying to create a force out of pseudo forces and apparent accelerations to keep the claim that we have gas pressure being created by a force of gravity.
Hold
Oh
on.
my
How
God,
how does an apparent or pseudo or fictitious acceleration that you haven't actually detailed to me yet, how does that achieve gas pressure without a container?
Well, it doesn't. But if you need to believe that it does, and you're trying to work within Einstein's general relativity, and you need to believe that even though within his relativity he only accounts for one mass, whatever mass is, at a time, and weight is not accounted for, and the acceleration with detailed Earth-based acceleration is only apparent within his general relativity model. But if you need to believe that gas pressure is created via a pseudo force creating an apparent acceleration, then that's what you will believe.
But believing that gas pressure is achieved by a pseudo acceleration, that isn't how gas pressure is achieved. Gas pressure is the force exerted on the walls of its container. That's what gas pressure is. It's not going to ever be defined as the pseudo force created on a gas to create containment, because you need an area. The area is the area inside the volume of containment that you have, and the gas pressure is the force the gas exerts on the walls of its container. So where's this defined gas pressure coming from when they say it's as a result of a not actual force that's a apparent motion that we don't experience? How's this got anything to do with containment of gas pressure?
Nathan,
Well,
when they want to deny a container, any kind of container, and one that the Bible specifically talks about, the firmament, they're gonna have to say it's something else doing it, and that's what Brian's trying to say.
Okay, but saying it's something else giving you pressure, as opposed to what gas pressure is, doesn't wash. Like
That doesn't matter
redefining
to
what
them.
gas pressure is and then saying I can achieve my redefinition of gas pressure because I redefine gas pressure as being a pseudo-accelerative force creating containment. What?
Yeah, well,
so that's not the
I
definition of gas pressure, though, is it?
Well, I have people on the globe side who are literally avoiding learning about Einstein's equivalence principle. They're literally avoiding it because it takes away the downward force. Now, technically, if they learned it, they could then start trying to use it as an argument for gas pressure. But they literally won't even learn it because it means there is no downward force. The downward, what they think is a downward acceleration, once they accept Einstein's general relativity and his equivalence principle, which is part of it, right? That means they can't then after that claim that weight has anything to do with gravity or that objects go down, because they don't in Einstein's relativity model, and especially involving his equivalence principle. But
Is that
I have
because...
people, just one second, I
Just
have
one sec.
people who are doing their best to not even learn about his equivalence principle.
Brian, is that because... I'm sorry.
Just give me a second.
A sense of pun.
Because
Hold on,
yeah,
Ted.
they what they need to do is now manufacture some other way for gas pressure to be created via gravity, while also having to accept that gravity is not a force, and then continue denying that gas pressure requires a containment.
Gotcha. That's the problem, though, isn't it? So redefining what gas pressure is to then try and explain how a not actual force can give them a force that creates containment when they're denying containment. The definition of gas pressure is merely the force it exerts on the walls of its containment, not a downward acceleration force when it's not actually a force, but you can think of it as a force. That's not what gas pressure is.
Brian,
No.
For clarity, is that because Einstein's principle is the Earth is moving up?
Yes, Einstein's equivalence principle states that the Earth is always the globe Earth, right? That's how they describe it. The globe Earth is always expanding out in all directions, but space-time is pulling in against it to counteract it.
So net force zero, like nothing
Yeah.
to see. Yeah, it's just total bollocks. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Just quickly on that. That sounds like a conflation. Gas behavior is one thing. They're not trying to emulate gas behavior. They're trying to emulate the effects of a container by the application of a force. That makes sense. So they're trying to reduce the overall speed of the particles to give the effect of gas pressure without a container by a removal of molecular speeds within the gas particles. So it's not actually replicating gas behavior. If anything, they're trying to replicate the container with forces.
Right. So let's explain the problem. Why is this occurring? If anybody's watching going, I'm struggling to follow along with this. Well, it's very simple. On Earth, we breathe gas pressure. To have gas pressure, we must have containment. And the heliocentric model has gas pressure without containment. And it must be without containment because you've got rocket ships travelling into the sky vacuum, the availability of volume, the space that the gas could fill. So they have to come up with an explanation for how you can have gas pressure with a sky vacuum for the rockets to still be able to travel through the gas pressure into the vacuum. Obviously, you can't have a barrier there because that would mean rockets couldn't go through the barrier to have the gas pressure. So they ignore the definition of what gas pressure actually is and try and come up with an explanation how forces can hold the gas to Earth, enabling them to still have rockets leaving through the gas pressure that's being held here by a force, but can be negated by a rocket. Total nonsense. Space.
Sounds like a bunch of shite to me.
Hold on, Neil. Space, what they are actually trying to defend in this nonsense argument about forces creating gas pressure, what they're actually doing is denying what gas pressure is to retain the fake place they think rockets travel to, called outer space. So for clarity, outer space is fake. Because if it was real, the gas pressure we are breathing would never have been achieved. It would have dissipated into the volume it has to fill, which would be outer space. Because we have gas pressure here and we're all breathing quite happily, it means that there is no availability of volume called outer space that gas could and would fill. It hasn't. We're still breathing. We must be contained. Therefore, no travel to space, no outer space. Outer space is fake. Go on, Neil.
Well, what I was going to say, I'm sorry, Neil, but now that we've established that a container is the antecedent for gas pressure, the next part is the gas pressure gradient. The antecedent for that would be gas pressure, would it not be?
Yeah. So for gas pressure to achieve gas pressure gradation, you first have gas pressure, then you can have a gas pressure gradient. It's still got the antecedent consequent relationship that you describe, with containment being the antecedent for gas pressure.
Right, but once you establish that, your line of thinking can go on to, well, if we have a gas pressure gradient, therefore we must have gas pressure, and the only way to get gas pressure is with a container.
Correct.
Hey, John, you were talking about a certain spark plug in a certain vehicle that isn't allowing gas pressure to occur, so your car could accelerate. Is that something like that?
Yes, it is. It's extremely like that. So now I have a miss in my engine.
What BMW stands for? Break my windows.
One thing I want your generation to know: the Earth is a closed system. You cannot leave the Earth. Said by Bill Nye. A little bit weird. Good morning, guys.
So wait, you're saying there's no walls for this globe anywhere?
There's no what?
There's no walls around this globe? So how are we breathing then if there's no walls, right? It's got to be containment.
No, it's not that logical step. It's not, well, how are we breathing if we don't have any containment for the gas pressure? No, that isn't the logical step. Because that leads you to the anti-flat earth mechanism of figuring out how a force can be container. It isn't.
That's a bit like, why do I see the
I'm
clock?
saying there has to be walls.
A space-time container.
Okay,
Right?
to answer,
Not a
to answer
force,
Neil.
space-time
Okay,
container.
everyone else, why are you all stepping on Neil? Makes a change. Right, you're saying the wall must have the globe must have walls, and it doesn't. Yeah, it's because it's fake. It's not real. They're lying to us. But yeah, for the gas pressures that we all breathe and enjoy, there must be containment. Now, if you're saying I want to retain the globe paradigm whilst making that assertion, then the globe must have walls, i.e. containment for the gas pressure we're breathing around the globe. We're not on a globe. You can't get elevation angle measurements from a curved surface, and navigation is done flat. So, any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline? If not, we've got a flat Earth, and we must have containment.
Yeah, but Darwin has Arwen has a point. They're going to go and say it's space-time is doing it.
Yeah, it's
Something
a
that's not
space-time
real.
barrier.
Space-time's
It's like the
conceptual.
carbon line.
No,
there's
It's not
this
doing
no, no, no,
anything.
no,
It's
no.
not doing
non-
anything. It's
so-
not going to do anything. It's conceptual. It's a fourth dimensional geometry. It doesn't do anything.
Yes, it
The
does.
No, it does
bending,
not.
Space
hold
time.
on. The bending of a concept cannot cause gas pressure to be maintained. I'm sorry.
You don't know that, Neil.
Yeah, I do. Concepts don't... Show me time, then show me it bending.
I can't. It's in a conceptual medium. It's not in our 3D normal reality, but that doesn't mean it can't do anything.
Shout out to Hillside, says, good morning, gentlemen, and gives us a peace sign. No.
Good morning, Hillside.
Geometries and concepts don't do anything. They're not physical. They're conceptual.
This will
Maybe the
lead to a-
container wall is simply in another dimension. I mean, what's so complicated about this?
Show me dimensions.
No.
What do you mean no? You're describing geometry. A fourth dimensional geometry would be pseudo-Riemannian force space. That's Einsteinian time bending, which is what you're appealing to as doing something. Doesn't matter what you're appealing to it as doing. It doesn't do anything. It's a conceptual framework, a geometry.
That was my point in saying Arwen said it the way they say it now. It just can't prove it, and it's a concept. So it's another reach for another answer than admitting to what does cause gas pressure.
Well, if they could show it to me on a small level, show me the bending of space-time causing gas pressure to be contained. In a small little area.
No, Neil takes it to that step that they need. No, you're not going to be showing me the concept of something that can't do anything causing anything else, because it can't do anything. So you're not going to establish it primarily with a causal relationship to an effect when it has no causal influence. It's a geometry.
Can I give a little bit of a history lesson? When Einstein came along with his general relativity and special relativity prior to that model, the globe and heliocentric model was heading for implosion because the expansion they needed, they were hitting a brick wall with. So when he came along, even though his special and general relativity basically makes absolutely zero sense, it was good enough for heliocentrism to expand out their crazy model. And then when his equation of E equals MC squared, when they started looking at that, and it turned out that through what is now known as hydrogen fusion reaction, that it has some relevance, even though the equation itself is totally flawed because it has things like mass in it and speed of light, blah, blah, blah. The general underlying simplicity of it is matter and energy are interlinked, right? That meant they could hold up his general relativity up in the air even higher as if it was something brilliant. But what you have out there is you have a whole generation after generation at the moment of people who think gravity is still a force. They don't even know that things like quantum mechanics debunked Einstein decades ago. They've never even gotten to Einstein. They haven't gotten to general relativity yet, the everyday public. They still think it's a force. They don't even know that it's not even it's not been a force officially in the higher rankings of pseudoscience and mainstream pseudoscience since 1915. So they don't even know that this force is out the window since 1915. They don't even know that Einstein's relativity has been attacked by other heliocentrists and shown to not work in different things as well since then. And then quantum mechanics debunks his, which is what he needs, which is his two-way speed of light claim. And like they don't even realize, and most of the people we deal with still think Newtonian mechanics hold solid when that was also debunked. We're dealing with just high levels of ignorance. I'm not saying the ordinary people out there are all ignorant. They just don't know any better. I know it's
No, they are. You don't have to apologise for your statement. It's true, but people are kept in ignorance. It's not their own fault.
Yeah.
Because they're educated in a Newtonian, non-Einsteinian force of gravity. And when they want to appeal to containment, which is what this general discussion's about, we will eventually get to you, Arwin, because this conversation has been brought about by the fact that you were talking about one of the fake rockets that you said was too heavy to go up or something, which expanded into me saying, oh, well, when I saw the rockets on display, they were just hollow, empty things held together with ratchet straps, so you don't really know what they're sending up. But ultimately, where are they sending them? Well, they're definitely not going to space, are they? Because outer space is fake. You can't have gas pressure without a container. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. Therefore, where else can they go other than, well, the area they call the Bermuda Triangle? That's where they go. They can't go anywhere else. That was your cue, Arwin.
Wait, Brian said quantum mechanics. There's a lot of flat earthers that don't believe quantum mechanics is real.
Quantum mechanics is not a believe subject.
I agree.
A lot of flat earthers out there mix up what is actual quantum mechanics as opposed to people taking the word quantum and using it to let's say, beef up their theories or their whatever, colloquial theories. That when it comes down to actual quantum mechanics, it's all about proving or disproving of whatever. That's what it's about.
Brian, what specifically, in the short summary, how and why quantum mechanics disagrees or goes against Einstein?
Well, quantum mechanics show that light doesn't have a finite speed. Basically, I say Einstein, the two-way speed of light calculation, right, is also known and has been known for a long while now. I only found this out off of I can't remember the man's Veritasium's video, whenever it was a few years ago, that it's known as Einstein's convention, because he admittedly uses it knowing that he doesn't actually have a speed of light, but he needed it for his general relativity, so he just used it anyway, even though he admitted himself that well, we just kind of agree on. It's an agreed on upon convention. So Einstein has literally admitted that that part of the general relativity is totally and utter bogus. So there wasn't even nothing to debunk, if you know what I mean.
You had said in the past it was 4 assumptions and 2 calculations, or was it the other way?
Yeah, there was 4 pre-assumptions and two averages is what goes into the two-way speed of light claim.
Right,
because
I was just going to say that sounds like a calculation, not a convention. Maybe they use convention so they can tie it to measurement, but it just sounds like a calculation to me.
Well, in the end, that's all it is, because you have to first pre-assume that the Earth is a globe of a particular size. Then you have to pre-assume that the Sun is a star of a particular size. Then you have to pre-assume that the Earth rotates around or orbits around the Sun. But then they have to pre-assume that Kepler's analemma was correct, right? And then they have to then use the average radius of their globe Earth, because there's 2 radii. Not really, there isn't really. That's a lot of nonsense. But they have to say there is the average radius of their globe radii, and the average distance between the Sun, the globe Earth, and the heliocentric Sun over a 12-month period. Those 6 things have to start at the start of the two-way speed of light claim calculation. So it's all just a calculation based on we believe it's a globe and we're in a heliocentric space.
Well, they have another one of these things that's pretty obvious to all of us. It's the radius of the Earth and the geometric horizon. It's a thought experiment from a calculation that if you live on a sphere with a radius of 3959, every horizon distance can be no further than 1.22 miles by the square root of the observer's height feet. So the whole point is it's supposed to be there if we're on the globe, but because we're on the globe, it's a calculation. Then when you say, where is it? Well, refraction. So it's just another thing they have to make up to assume you're on the globe, but it's never there to be measured.
Well, I think it's pretty clever to say Einstein's convention, because like the foot or the meter they're conventions, you know. But you're tying a concept to reality, and that gives you the measurement. So they're trying to say that they've measured this somehow by calling it Einstein's convention, which they obviously haven't.
Well,
Well,
if you look at, sorry.
No, I was going to say, if we have an agreed upon convention for measurement, and then you're going to say by measurement, the Earth's horizon, which is Earth curve, has to be here. Okay, fine. Then let's use that agreed upon convention, tape measure, whatever you want to call it, and see if it's there. Well, it's not there. So now, is the convention wrong in the way we measured it, or is the fact that you're looking for Earth curve when it's not there wrong?
Well, just on that two-way speed of light thing, what they mostly start trying to point at these days is a guy called Fizeau. I can't remember when this guy did this thing, but he used less than a 10-mile return. So it was, I think, around just under 5 miles one way and just under 5 miles back. And he had like a rotary type situation. I think of gears where there is holes for light to come through, and I won't go into all the details. But this guy, I made a mistake recently, and I was corrected on it by one of the ballers. I said that a second was made up of 1,000 microseconds, but I made a mistake in my memory. And when I was corrected on it, I was happy to be corrected on it, because there's actually not 1,000 microseconds in a second. There's 1 million microseconds in a second. And I think because it was so ridiculous that this guy Fizeau supposedly measured a tiny amount of this 1 million within 1 second. That's what the claim is. I worked it out before. I went through the maths. It was kind of awkward, but I did it using a few different. I won't go into. I can't even. I'd have to look at it. I have it upstairs on my computer. What I did, but he worked it out. Like, he would have got like 16 or something ridiculous, or 360 he would have measured 360 microseconds out of 1 million microseconds within 1 second. This is the claim. This is what they're actually latching onto to try and avoid where the origins of it came from. This guy Fizeau measured like a tiny. If you think about like what 1 light year would be, and think about measuring like out of 1 million microseconds within a second. It's such a tiny amount. It's so unbelievably tiny. I'd say computers would have their work cut out to get it correct. Sorry.
That would be so difficult. You'd have to second guess yourself each time.
Well, computers can go to nanoseconds. I know that, but I don't think he was using a computer. So yeah, that would be a problem. Yeah, that'd be a problem. The thing I want to get back to about the convention, because Kenneth brought it up, like the measurement to the horizon is a dip angle measurement, but it's a differential between two flat planes, and then they assume the horizon is Earth curve. So the problem with that is in the assumption, and so there's actually a measurement there. It's just not what they think they're measuring.
Right, but that's how when you say, well, let me pose it to you this way, because you're onto it. Well, how'd you come up with 3959 as your radius of this Earth?
Well, we assumed it was a ball after we took flat Earth angle measurements to Polaris.
The first part, yeah, the first part is always first. Well, since we live on a sphere, the shadow from the stick or the mountain from Biruni, right? The whole point is you have to assume you're a sphere to make a radius out of it, but you can get the same shadow and same everything from a flat plane.
Well, you can't. The thing is, if you assume it's a sphere, you can't get the angle measurements. So that's why they use the flat plane, and then they make false assumptions.
No, I get it, but they'll say the Earth is curving. because that's what's causing it. Because light now has to come in straight. Because see, they go so out of their way to assume you're a sphere that the angle measurements destroy them right away because you can't get a elevation angle from a curved surface. But if you assume you're a sphere and sunlight's coming in straight, then you could go into this make-believe world of yours that could never be verified.
Well, even if you assume that sunlight is coming in parallel, you still need a flat plane to
Agreed.
measure the angles to assert it's parallel.
How ridiculous is it to assume the thing that you just got angles from is something that you wouldn't be able to get an angle from?
That's it, isn't it? Any
How
evidence of the R
How
value?
ridiculous is that?
Any evidence of the R value? Because we're on the topic.
Well, just while we're on the topic and it's connected to it, I literally responded just before I came on the show, I'd say about 7 minutes before I joined the show, to somebody claiming that the dip correction is a dip to a refracted globe horizon. Now, this would mean, if you think about that claim, right, that would mean that over a horizontal body of water, that someone standing on the deck of a ship, that their eye line would be at the height of the water underneath the boat at all times. So the eye line and the water underneath the boat would always be exactly the same height, at the same level. So you could never, ever, basically what it means is that if you think about that claim that the dip to the horizon is a dip to Earth curve, you're literally stating that depression angles don't exist, aren't you? That's what you're stating.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, because when they use a bubble sextant, they have to have a fictitious horizon, and that horizon is baseline to infinity. And then when you use the Earth's horizon with the Mariner sextant, it gives you the same angle measurement. That has to match. It can't be any different. So it's over for those guys.
Well, what I'm saying is the dip, you know the way the dip is only a dip between two parallel horizontals, the eye line and the sea line underneath the water, right? The sea surface underneath the water.
Right.
If I want to beg the question and think that because my eye line is higher than the water, and that means my eye line is higher than the horizon I see, and that the reason for that is that because I'm on a globe, that would mean that over a flat surface, over a horizontal sea surface, that would mean that my eye line would have to always be in line with the water. That a depression angle can't exist because I believe I'm on a globe, so a depression angle can't exist. If you understand what I mean. The angle is always to the starting of our curve. It's never just a depression angle between two horizontal parallels.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. How many times have we shown the citations, and even QE called it the rubber ducky? So if you're on the water with your eye line, do you do dip correction?
No, there's no need for height of light correction or dip correction if you are if your eye line is at the water line.
That's right. No. And they even say it. So that means the Earth is the same as that fictitious horizontal that's baseline to infinity on the surface of the water. It's over right there. It's instantly over for them.
Yeah, when you say baseline to infinity, you're saying that it goes out in a flat plane from where you're at.
That's right. Baseline to infinity is just saying, yeah, we've got a flat Earth. That's our baseline, base being starting point.
So that's the confession.
Yeah. Well, it's a requirement. It's a prerequisite. In order to have a globe, you've got to have a flat Earth first. Do we get to the elevation angle actual answer? Any evidence you can have an elevation angle measurement?
It seems like that's what they're all saying, Nathan. Sorry.
I'll just ask my question again. Why, after getting angles off of something, would you assume that that something is something that you can't get angles off of in the first place?
Well, then it's paradoxical.
ridiculous.
Any evidence of the
I don't know,
distance
but
to the sun? As we're asking.
Negative.
In the sky.
To Chocolate's answer, isn't that what Brian covered with Einstein's special and then general relativity? Was they saw it was all falling apart, so they have to go into space-time bending in order to take it out of the measurable world that we're in.
10th man, when this was going on, where were the minds of the times? Where were the knowledgeable people?
They were
Where were the
fighting it, Neil.
scientists?
No, they were fighting it, Neil. I have tons of research of people arguing with these people, just like our channel here argues with them. Tons of it. It was being taught in schools that Earth was flat and a regular plane in the 1920s. Just because they don't make that material available to us unless you go research it, doesn't mean people weren't fighting it.
Yeah, I don't remember being taught about August Picard going up in his balloon and saying, "Oh, looks like a flat disk with an upturned edge." I don't remember that in school. They kind of kept that hidden away, but they made sure to tell us all about Columbus being scared that he's going to go over the edge.
Exactly, and they all laughed, right, Chocolate? And
Yeah.
everybody laughed, right? Like I was saying the other day.
Well, Auguste Picard's grandson is supposedly his grandson is in charge of his Wikipedia page, and he changed what he's supposedly, if it is his grandson, changed what his grandfather would have said to "I saw a globe out." He changed what Auguste Picard said, which was that he saw a huge flat disk with upturned edges.
How the hell did he do that when that was like literally published in like Popular Science back then? What was it, like 36 or something like that?
Well, see, the way it works is if your grandfather says something, you can go back in the citation and change it because of your bloodline.
Well, I'm saying that.
Go on,
See,
Chocolate.
now you got me curious. Now I want to go look it up because I remember seeing that in a Popular Science magazine from like 36 or something like that.
That's correct.
36 to 37.
No, you're
So-
right. I remember that too.
That would still exist. That would still exist. But when people look up who Auguste Picard is, the first thing they're going to find is Wikipedia. They're going to go in there and they're going to see that he supposedly said he went up and saw the curve of the globe out. They changed it a couple of years ago.
You know who was
That's adorable.
You know who was one of the attendees of that big conference that Lemaitre was at, Einstein was at? It was Auguste Picard.
Well, yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, he was a physicist of his time, as far as I know.
Yeah, but then afterwards he went and did that balloon flight and said that. So I mean, it's very interesting.
No, Picard was he was the next generation Starship Enterprise captain. What are you talking about?
That's probably
Captain
who they
Picard.
named it after. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to high altitude balloons, I think he went up 14 miles. Now, obviously, there's balloons go up higher than that. But I mean, if you went up there and you could see with your own eyes, he had a diving bell, which means there was windows, but there would have been that thick curved glass within the windows. And even with that, he was even able to see that, it was a big flat disk with upturned edges. So I mean, technically, that's really all anyone would need to know, wouldn't it? Do you know what I mean? As far as proof of what the Earth is and is not, you'd have to go, well, it can't be a globe if it appears to be a flat disk with upturned edges from 14 miles above.
Yeah, that's a bit of a problem.
Well, all of my life has presented itself as obviously flat and motionless.
Did you say emotionless?
No, motionless. Well, unless there's an emotionless bicycle.
The ether bike.
Yeah, the ether bike.
Oh God, let's not. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No, but as you were saying, you're right, Chocolate. It presents itself flat and motionless, but we're taught in school that we're not on a flat and motionless plane, but we're on a spinning water ball. For gravity holding us to the Earth. And thank God for gravity, because if it wasn't there, we'd be flying off into space.
Yeah, and we're taught in school that you can be whoever you want to be each day versus the day before. You don't believe everything you're taught in school.
But why are we not all orbiting the Earth, though? Like, when did gravity make... See, what's this decision making? Did gravity flip a coin and said, these things I'm going to make orbit? Like the moon, that's definitely going to orbit the Earth. But this rock that I pick up, when I drop it, it's definitely going to go down because, yeah. When is that decision made? Is what I want to know.
I just want to say that Neil did answer your question, Nathan.
Did he?
Yeah, he said no.
Oh, right, okay.
Nathan, you've been doing your best to get the housekeeping questions out, and they're getting very little traction. People are just taking whatever question you ask, and they go, yeah, and I'll tell you something else, and they start talking about whatever they want to talk about. And I've been doing it too.
But I did say negative. The actual
I am seeing here that
any evidence, I said negative.
Go on, whoever that was, Creation Bear.
I mean, we might have to readjust the question because apparently the core, this is a quote, isn't a boring blob of iron after all.
What is it?
Hold on, let's find out what they made it themselves. True, because they made it of themselves, but go on.
In fact, yeah, I mean, they just they're just changing the story as they go, but a new hidden world discovered in Earth's inner core.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was my cousin.
What a whole new world.
Yeah, so they don't even know what's under there anymore.
Did you say a brave new world?
No, he said a whole new world.
hidden
And my
world.
question is, hold on, how did they discover this?
They just
Same way they
reran the
discovered
simulations, I think.
Sorry, Creation Bear, I stepped on it.
No, they just redid the simulation, and this one seemed cooler, I think. So
Yeah, well, it's
new
the same
updated
way
DLC for the core.
It's the same way they discovered everything else. Just make it up.
Yeah, it's the
Michael
core's
Kahn's-
new DLC. Go ahead.
Michael Kahn's message, sorry, just to interrupt. It says, Job 38:14, the earth takes shape like clay under a seal. Its features stand out like those of a garment. Beautiful.
Yeah, that sounds circle to me.
I don't think we have the actual Earth curve question yet, so any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Well, the best I got is an extended globe horizon that is physically extended.
Wait, extended? I thought boats and buildings were supposed to be blocked by it.
Like Go Gadget Earth Curve?
Yeah.
No, more like Stretch Armstrong.
No, you know the way you have a balloon and you blow it up. Well, if you just measure its size, right, when you blow it up, and then blow it up even bigger, and then blow it up even bigger again if you want to, or even bigger again if you want to. Well, that's 7/6R. That's globe radius refraction, where they literally make it bigger than it really is, and it isn't really anything that doesn't exist.
Can I have a package of 7/6R balloons, please?
But no matter how much they blow up the dingleberry, it'll still be below surface level.
Right, they're going to need that differential, and it's going to have that, what did you call it earlier? Infinitely expanding baseline. Yeah, they're going to need a flat Earth for that.
Yeah, the geometric horizon and the refracted horizon all exist below surface level.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Well, that's something I'm glad we got to, because I actually am going to say something about that topic. I want to be unpopular for saying this, but I've alluded to it in the past, but I have to say it. We can keep on trying to hold them to what is the Coriolis effect. But their actual claim, and I've heard it from the mainstream, the claim now is that what they call Coriolis, now I know we've labeled it, Nathan, you coined it Globiolis in the past, but their claim is a north to south claim. It's not Coriolis effect. It's a deviation, a north to south deviation that let's say that airplanes should experience, or the path of the path of an airplane. Sorry, 1 second, Neil. The path of an airplane should experience due to a globe Earth rotating underneath it. Now, the late George Netjuk and me went at it on Granties some years ago, and he proved, without a shadow of a doubt, with maths, that it was impossible for a plane leaving London Heathrow to fly to Lagos International, which would be a due south journey, for them to have any deviation. If you, based on all the an average of all the departure and arrival times, and the average departure and arrival times of flights from London Heathrow to Lagos International, and the average airspeed, that it was that a deviation due to Earth rotation would be absolutely impossible. He did that live. He thought, I don't know what result he was expecting, but that I really believe we should hold him to that, because that is such a load of rubbish that they can't prove, but yet they'll keep on claiming it, but we're not holding them to that. We keep talking to them about the Coriolis effect, but they're not claiming the Coriolis effect. They're claiming a deviation, a north-south deviation, due to a rotating globe underneath them, which is not the Coriolis effect.
Well, the stars aren't in what? Well, the main claim is the reason the stars seem to rotate is because Earth is rotating, isn't it? Like
underneath them as a separate reference frame. Yes, that's the main claim. The claim is a claim of Coriolis effect. The claim is Earth is turning underneath the stars, therefore the stars aren't actually making that rotational movement we see. It's only apparent because it's us on a rotating platform turning beneath. That's the claim.
But what they do is they change it. What they do is they have changed the wording around over time, and they started calling it a pseudo force when it came to Earth-based things like air travel and things like that. And then it just became the Coriolis force that causes airplanes to have to deviate, but more than that, it causes hurricanes and typhoons. So they have changed it over time. If you ask them about the stars and the sun and whatever, the stars, they will say, well, the stars is only an apparent orbit or whatever, but in reality, it's like that they'd have to claim that's the Coriolis effect. But when it comes to talking about an airplane, or worse again, hurricanes, it becomes the Coriolis force to even leave out the pseudo part. So that's where they're at. Not just the people we deal with, but even in the mainstream, that's where they're at.
So they're arguing with themselves.
Yeah, Brian's
they're making
right.
two separate claims.
No,
Sorry.
Brian's right. This is what I picked up through the research as well as listening to them debate. They are making two separate claims, but it's just like everything else. When the globe math and everything about the globe doesn't work out in reality, they have to change it, and this is what they've done here.
Right, but they're making two claims that are contradictory to each other.
Correct. That's the main point, isn't it? The two claims actually oppose each other.
Yeah, but then again, if you're going to lie about what you're on, you're going to have to somehow defend it. And when you go to defend it, the very thing you said it was can't be backed up. So there's that one claim out the door. Now you got another claim that doesn't even resemble that one.
I think distance to the sun's the only question we haven't had. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
There's a claim of 93 million.
Hold on. I did give you an answer. I said negative. That was like 3 questions ago.
Yeah, and then I said it's in the sky.
There's a claim it's 93 million miles away that most of the world believes.
It's in my kids' curriculum, my homeschool children, right in their curriculum. That's what it reads.
Well,
When you step
technically,
when you step outside and you're under it, it's tantamount.
technically, the only evidence for the distance to the sun is the shadows that it creates. Now, why I say that is that their sun, the heliocentric sun, has to have a much huger radius than their globe, but because of its angular size, it must be a particular distance away to have that size radius. But that all comes from them needing to explain the shadows we see in reality, how they would work on the globe. So technically, the only evidence for any distance to the sun are shadows. And I really don't know how you could get 93 million miles out of that if you just walked in reality.
But the shadows that we see, right, you'd be measuring their angle that the sunlight is coming in relative to the other ones. And you get the idea that they're parallel that way, right? By measuring their angle relative to the other shadows.
Well, no, if you look at the Eratosthenes demonstration, the whole point was that they had to claim that Eratosthenes had to pre-assume it was a globe first and that sunlight came in parallel. Otherwise, the shadows we see prove that the sun is close and local and that the Earth has to have a horizontal baseline.
But when he measured the angle, he had to use a flat plane.
Well, what choice did he have?
Why are you getting caught up in the flat plane?
Don't get hung up on that flat plane that you need angles from.
Yeah, if we could just get past the flat plane, I could explain to you how it's a globe.
Hopefully we can all assume it's a globe first, and then have the angle measurements already acquired by a third party and have them presented. With those assumptions in mind and flat earth measurements in hand, we can explain how it's a sphere.
Well, first we'll have to put it in a model of a flat plane. We'll put it in a model of a flat plane, and then we'll apply the Habersheim formula after we've established the model.
But that flat plane model does have the word sphere in it. I mean, it's a celestial sphere model. We just won't mention the fact that the ground in that model is flat, and the sky is the bit that's being described as the celestial sphere. Just focus on the fact that the word sphere's in there, and everyone will be golden.
Hold on. According to Charles, don't we have to figure out what we're on first before we begin to measure it and figure out
what shape the world is? And another thing, definitely don't mention that the celestial sphere model is based off of perspective.
Hey guys, the other thing as well with that distance to the sun is, if this Eratosthenes and all this came up with the radius value, and that has a detrimental effect on distances to luminaries. I mean, then you can go further down. Copernicus, who came up with the heliocentric model, he originally claimed it was 3 million miles away, the sun. And then the model changed again with Kepler, who claimed it was 12 million miles away. And then Newton, I think he said it doesn't matter if it's 28 or 54 million miles away. And then Benjamin Martin claimed another figure, and Thomas Dilworth claimed another figure. So it's constantly changed throughout the ages, depending on when they changed the model. So
yeah, that's fine.
The
The sun can be any distance you want it to be away, as long as you measure it on a flat plane.
Yeah, and as long as you make sure that it matches its angular size, its average angular size, you can be anything you want. You know, because their universe, whatever a universe is always expanding in some way. Their story is always expanding. So if you were to start writing a story and you became more and more creative, the more writing you did, then your story, the book would end up being a lot bigger, wouldn't it? Instead of it being 30 pages, suddenly it's 300 pages. Then it's 700 pages. So the sun has to change its position relative to the globe if their heliocentric universe is becoming more complicated and bigger. You know, what choice did they have? I mean,
and Brian,
you can't blame it.
As you continue to write and change, you get better and better at the story.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's your story, and I mean, you shouldn't be. I mean, it's not your fault. It's your story, and you can do what you want with it.
I like Nathan's story.
Well, all I know is thank God for the tilt, because it would be a hell of a thing to get 3 million miles closer to the sun in January when there's 7 feet of snow on the ground. So yeah, that checks out.
Yeah,
Well,
when Chicago was sorry.
I was just going to say, you know, when I get too warm at a fire, I take a couple steps back and burst into flames.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't everybody? Is that not how that works?
Fine.
Well,
The
when
sun
Chicago
is closer to the Earth or further.
See, but if you were to tilt the other way,
then go on, Brian. You can have the last word.
I was asking if it's tilting. Where is it further away? Is it hotter during the winter or during the summer? The sun. I mean, how far
in the
away is
heliocentric
it?
nonsense model,
we are
closer to the sun in winter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
January.
because it has to warm up the Earth.
January, we're the closest to the sun in their model.
Right. And
their
what
narrative.
they used to what they told me was because the Earth it's cold and the Earth has to get warmed up. That's why the sun is closer.
Of course. It's not just a necessity in their model and maths. It's because we need to get warmer. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. Another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. And another massive thank you to today's Discord. No, not Discord. Gilded and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
The only way to sell it. You couldn't
Facts.
sell it if it made sense. Yeah. you know what the heliocentric model is? It's a science fiction model. There's no if, buts, or maybes about it. That they've sold as reality. So people are living within science fiction.
Yeah,
That's what Kirk says. James T. Kirk says science is science fiction, right? Space travel, science fiction. And that's Admiral James
We
T.
have
Kirk.
to embrace the fiction in our science, though, right? Didn't that citation say that? Ah.
But you look at Einstein's general relativity. I mean, if that's not a science fiction model, a novel, I don't know what is. I mean, so his general relativity model is absolute science fiction, but they accepted it because they needed to take things away from reality, as we've already spoken about, and put them into a place where nothing can be measured or proven, and the story can become anything you want it then. I mean, the wardrobe.
It's what I was saying the other day. It's like objectivity has become the enemy. There's nothing you can know for certain, so you just you don't know anything because you don't know everything. It's ridiculous.
Hold on. You can know for certain that you can't know anything for certain. That's the only thing you can know for certain. And you can know that for certain.
A word.
That actually makes sense, John.
Are you sure about that?
That's a paradox.
Nice one deck.
It's like I say that
circle.
heliocentric. It's just there it's just to close it all up for you. It's hiding the truth, and it's giving you something where you no need to longer ask questions about your reality and the nature of Earth, because it's all been done for you. So just dumb yourself down and don't ask any questions. That's what it is.
Oh,
People
you
fucking
said
love
the
it.
nature of your reality. So, yeah, that's what they think too. They think that it's their reality because they can make it work in their head. That means it's their reality. And a lot of people agree to the same type of reality. So they stick together and they defend indefensible arguments in lockstep with each other.
Yeah, like you were talking about that Artemis rocket. Was it Artemis rocket in your show?
Yep. That thing that's never going to come off the ground. That I would put
Did it-
money on put options for it. If I could.
You gonna place bets on it to fail, huh?
You don't know what a
To
put option
never
is, do
ever
you,
come
Alan?
off the ground. Officially.
What you say, Nathan?
That Owen doesn't know what a put option is.
Isn't a put option placing a
Why will it never
short.
go off the ground, Darwin?
An
What-
option
what
is
Bill
something with
Gates has got
shares.
against Tesla, innit?
An option, something with shares, where you have an opportunity to sell a share for a given price, and you can sell the options themselves like shares.
Yeah, but you do put options when you believe something's going to fail to make money off of it.
Correct. It's the opposite, but it's still an option.
Yeah, exactly. And shorting is just the betting on that the stock market price itself is going to go down. But the
No, no.
put option is for like the actual destruction of the company that's doing that.
No, it's just an option to
I
sell.
thought shorting-
No, it's not. That your action with it could do that, but it's not. No, you're just confused about what it is. Let's just not go into stocks and shares here. This isn't the right place.
It's because I watched the GameStop documentary.
Unless, of course, you're Jordan Belfort.
Well, why would this rocket take off? Because according to NASA, we need to solve these problems before we can send people to this regional space. Oh, hold up. They're not putting people in this thing. What let me check my watch. What year is it? 2022. So we can't do something in 2022 that we did easy peasy lemon squeezy in 1969. Yeah.
No, it was all just a simulation. Everything that's done in like the last 70 years is all just a simulation for when they are really going to do it. You see?
Chocolate,
They're
they
just
didn't know about the Van
leaving
Allen.
out that part. They're leaving out the part where they say, yeah, this is actually still just a simulation. We haven't actually done it yet.
No,
They
Chocolate, the
didn't know
world was
about Eddie back then.
the world was a braver place back then. That's the difference. Now people won't take the chance. Whereas back then, those men got into that rocket and said, oh, we just don't care we're doing this. And that was it. It was pure spirit.
They were real men back then, right, Bri? They just got in
Yeah,
and
just
said,
go for it.
let's go. And then when they found out later that there was radiation belts, they said, we didn't know about it, so it didn't affect us. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, they had unsafe spaces, not safe spaces.
And they're trying to make you think like if there was a space is more beautiful. There's nothing more beautiful than the Earth that we're on at the moment. It's magnificent. There's lots to explore that we don't know. And they're just taking your mind away from that again.
Yeah, they just want you to explore your own mind using them as a guide.
Yeah, but Arwen, what did Lucifer say? He said, I will exalt myself above the heavens, above the stars. I will be like the Most High, right? So God has this beautiful earth, and Satan's taking claims to space with all these planets and galaxies, and everybody's buying it. So he has exalted himself above the heavens, and he is like the Most High.
No, it just seems like that because everything that's taking place is all taking place in our minds, and we use looking up as a background initiating thing for that process that actually all takes place in our minds. Yeah? So he's not above high. He just makes you think he is.
No, I'm not saying he is. He'll never be.
Talking
and can
about
never
space,
be.
talking about
Right.
space, talking about Satan, the great lie. It's all in our
Right.
minds. It's not actually high up. But he might make us think that he is.
Right. I got you.
You know what's funny? I think from what I heard the other day, I think there's another clip of Buzz saying that the moon landings didn't happen. I'd have to go look into it. I forget what I was listening to, but I think there's a new one. It's almost like we just can't stop saying that now. It's very weird.
Right,
Is
you
Buzz
guys.
Aldrin still
Sorry to
alive?
interrupt, just one sec. You guys gonna hang
Yep.
around? I'll just restart this PC, so hopefully you'll still be here when I get back and I've fiddled with a few things. But I'm gonna disappear temporarily, maybe for 5-10 minutes. Same to you guys in Gilded. Hopefully you can hang around and you'll still be here when I get back, and I'll do a members only live stream and carry on this. Not the same recording, but you know what I mean. Anyway.
Okay, that's cool. No, we'll just use these 10 minutes of plot
Don't
against
forget
you.
to make coffee.
No, I'm gonna fiddle with things.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!